Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the neighborhood. My name is Dylan Wren, and joining me today, I have Andrew Kimball. How you doing, Andrew?
Oh, pretty good. Can't complain. How about you?
Also can't complain. He stole my catchphrase. But
Catchphrase.
yeah, but we are your friendly neighborhood gamers, and today we wanted to do something a little bit different, try it out, see if you guys liked it. And so instead of doing like a little bit more of an in-depth discussion on a single game, we decided that we would spotlight a couple of games that we think are pretty cool, and that you might want to check out. Now, these are not necessarily, I can't guarantee that they're going to be S-tier games or anything. But these are games that we probably are not necessarily going to dedicate a full episode of our podcast or of this show to. And, down the road, if we get super into them or something, they may pop up again. But for now, it's just a thing that we think is pretty interesting, pretty cool, maybe underrated or doesn't get enough love, that we wanted to just shout out and see if you might be interested in it. So we each brought a game, so I'm going to kick it to you first, Andrew. What is a cool hidden gem game that you think more people should know about or try out or play?
Well, I personally can't think of a more hidden game that I absolutely love, and Aubrey, who has been on the show and also was a consistent voice in our last project, also loves, and that is Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy, which Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy was and is an action-adventure game that was inspired by the mythology of ancient Egypt. It originally came out for GameCube, PlayStation 2, Xbox era, and was published by THQ and developed by Eurocom.
Oh, wow.
Then after THQ went under and Nordic bought them, they released a port on Windows PC in 2017, and then they released a Switch version, a physical Switch version. I think you can get it digitally too, I'm not sure, in 2019.
Yeah.
And so that is probably the easiest way to play it now, is to go get that Switch version. That's how I replayed it in 2019 or maybe 2020. Really had a fantastic time even with the port. But essentially what this game is it is a Zelda-like type game where you play as two separate characters. Sphinx, who is like a demigod kind of action hero.
Yeah.
And he fights with a sword and a shield and has different kind of items that you find and pick up that kind of help him more like mobility and combat and things like that. And then you play as the mummy, who is the, I guess, corpse of Tutankhamun. And his sections are all about puzzle solving. And so he is his body is trapped within the castle of the main villain. And so he is solving puzzles and doing things from the inside and sending items back out to Sphinx to kind of help him on his quest. And so the mummy, it doesn't really make sense, but it's a video game. If his body gets electrocuted, he can electrocute things. If he's on fire, he can burn things. If he gets cut into if he gets cut with big blades, he can basically make three versions of himself. And so it's all just kind of a mechanic to allow you to solve different puzzles. And so the way that they split the two kind of gameplay sections on each of these characters, and so it kind of segments how you play through the game. It helps keep things fresh and keep things moving, where it's you don't just do the same thing throughout the whole game. You play a while as Sphinx, and Sphinx does a little bit of puzzle solving, but there's a lot more sword fights and fighting monsters and stuff like that. And then when you switch to the mummy, if you get caught by a monster, you're dead. You have no combat ability. But it's not a frustrating kind of way. It's not like a survival horror or like one of those games where you're hiding in a closet a lot and waiting for the monster to walk by. It's just a lot more about like environmental puzzle solving. And so if you like Zelda games, if you like those kind of fantasy mythology based like action exploration item collection games, I highly recommend it. I would love for it to get some sort of a remake or like a sequel. I don't know that'll ever happen. It was well regarded when it came out. It reviewed well, but it did not sell well. And there was a lot of content that was supposed to come out for the game when they were talking about it, similar to Cyberpunk maybe, that never made the final cut. And then also, as you get towards the end of the game, the last few sections, you can kind of feel like, oh yeah, they were trying to get this done. It kind of like rushes to the end, which is unfortunate. But I do think that, nostalgia aside for me, because I did play it on the GameCube back in the day a ton, I think that this game still has a ton of charm. It has a very interesting world, a compelling story, and very solid gameplay. And I'm saying that based off my replay of the port on Switch just a couple of years ago, and I think it holds up extremely well. So if any of those things I mentioned interest you in the slightest, definitely go check it out.
Yeah, for sure. Because it, like you said, this is not just you saying like, oh, I really remember this game being awesome as a kid. It's like, no, you replayed it just a couple of years ago and it still feels good. It still is a fun time to play. And who knows, now that THQ is back, kind of, and doing some interesting things, maybe we will see a remake or a long-awaited sequel to this game.
It would be amazing.
Yes. Well, cool. The game that I brought that I think is really cool and that maybe more people should know about or check out, and just wanted to spotlight, was the Hunt Showdown. So this is a player versus environment type of game that's developed by Crytek. And so each game that you have pits up to 12 players against the various horrors of the Louisiana swamps, and then against each other. So you can go into this game solo, you can go into it as like a team of 2, you can go into it as a team of 3, but there can only ever be 12 players on a map. And so it's, and you can queue into a bunch of ones with like teams of 3 as like a solo person and stuff. You can turn the teams of 3 on and off so that it's a little bit more fair. But it's got 3 different maps, and you're kind of popping into the world to hunt a bounty. And so there's generally 1 to 2 bosses in each map, and in a kind of randomized location. And so you'll kind of start at the outsides of the map and work your way kind of towards wherever these bosses are. And so you're looking around trying to find these little glowing clues. Once you find 3 of them, the location of the boss is revealed to you, and so you can get to it. And so it kind of functions like a battle royale game, but instead of like sort of the circle closing in on you like a bunch of battle royale games have, this encourages like players to kind of get to one spot by having you find where the boss is and then kind of converge on those areas, which is pretty cool. Because you can also just stumble across the boss without finding any clues. And sometimes you run in there and are like, oh no, this is a boss fight right now. And so another really cool thing about this game is that it's got really amazing sound design. And so like as you're running around, like they have a bunch of what they call sound traps. And so like there will be some birds kind of sitting around, or sticks that you have to watch out for, or like a chicken coop that if you get too close to it, they'll all go crazy. Or just like some of the various monsters will like scream if you notify or if you alert them. And so You can get a lot of information in the game just by paying attention and listening, and you can use it to pretty accurately like pinpoint where enemies are once you actually do start getting into an area with other players in it. So I like that a lot. It's a really cool kind of take. It's set in like the early 1900s, and so you've got, you know, cool little like revolvers and like rifles and shotguns and stuff, but nothing like too crazy.
Right.
And it also has like a quick play mode where it's only solo, and it's more focused on like PvP. You're not hunting down a boss, you're trying to, you know, it's kind of like Oddball or like King of the Hill, where you're trying to get to a certain place, and then all the other players, like, you kind of get a target on your back, and so everybody's trying to kill you and claim it, and so that's a pretty cool mode as well. It makes it feel really meaningful because once you kill a boss, you have to extract the bounty, and there are 3 places on the map that you can do that. But you don't have to kill the boss in order to claim the bounty. You can just choose to, you know, get some clues, get some experience, get some, you know, maybe kills on other hunters, or, you know, some random enemies just kind of wandering around the area, and just extract that way. And so you can kind of decide, like, do I want to like get into this fight and fight the boss and potentially get killed by another team, or do I just want to play it safe, which matters because you get these hunters, and if they die in the match, then they are permanently dead, and so you lose like your progress with them. You get a free hunter each match, so you're never like having to sit out and wait, but it is like an interesting little thing where it's like, okay, I kind of like this hunter, I've built up some perks on them, I've built up, you know, this experience with them, and so I may want to play it a bit more safe, and so that it helps make it feel a little bit more meaningful, because sometimes in other battle royales it can just be like, all right, I don't care about this, I'm just running straight in, I'm not worried about being quiet or playing safe because I'll just load into another match, whereas this actually makes it feel like there are consequences for what you're doing. But yeah, this is a cool one that I think it's available on, it came out in like the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, PC generation. They've updated it for Series X and PlayStation 5, I think. But yeah, I think it's worth checking out if you haven't, or if that sounds interesting to you.
Nice. Sounds cool.
Yeah. Well, cool. So that was our first, you know, little attempt at kind of shining the spotlight on some hidden gems. If you are interested in these games, or you've got your own hidden gems that you want to give a shout out to, feel free to leave a comment and let us know what you think of these games, or what games that we need to check out. And if you found this video interesting, liking and subscribing so you can get notified when we have new videos come out would be awesome. If you want to hear more from us, we do a lot more in-depth conversations about video games and people who have fun playing them on our podcast, which you can find at your friendly neighborhood gamers, wherever you find your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, whatever. We also stream every Friday night at 7:30 on twitch.tv/neighborhood_gamers. So if you want to come out and chat with us or watch us play video games and talk about video games, feel free to come out and join us. And with that, we will leave you guys with a reminder to
stay friendly, gamers.